So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Norwood Community Preservation Committee meeting of Wednesday, May 8th, 2019. We're here in Norwood Town Hall. The building is ADA compliant and ADA accessible. We have several available seats over here, and we'd invite people to come join us or give us feedback electronically or over the phone, or by any means would be great. I'll ask John Hall, if you could start off with a roll call of attendance, please.
John Hall, at-large member of the committee.
Helen Donahue.
Oh, Cheryl Doyle, Conservation Commission.
Peter McFarland.
Debbie Homewood, Planning Board. I'm going for, yes.
Good.
Fill in
Certainly.
the blank. My name is.
Pat DeShane, Assistant Town Planner.
John Aprea, member at large.
Great, thank you. And I'm Joe Greeley, at large. We do have a couple of members who are accounted for. 5, 6, 7. And we do one member who's accounted for, and we still have one technically open seat on the board. Although I've heard that that is still in the works. Wow. So moving right along, we do have a full agenda of events this evening. Today is May 8th, and next week is the annual town meeting, which is the culmination of our cycle. We will be presenting articles next week at town meeting, so we'll get to that tonight. Item number 1 on tonight's agenda, the approval of minutes from April 10th. So Patrick, thanks for presenting those.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion on minutes, changes, etc.?
Just thank you for using the front and back of the page.
There you go, perfect. Good comment.
Keep it on maybe the rest of town.
Okay, I understand that before the meeting took place, there were a couple of edits that were suggested.
I believe they for the executive session.
Okay.
They're not even worth mentioning.
Okay, so the minutes that we get that will be finally posted will have those small adjustments to it. We have another set of minutes. So the April 10th was the only remaining open. I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor of
Aye.
accepting the
Aye.
April 10th?
Aye.
Thank you.
Wow.
Good, thank you. All those opposed, unanimous. The April 10th meeting was the only open meeting for which minutes were unapproved, but they've now been approved, so we're up to date. We do have another set. Pat has provided us with the proposed minutes from the executive session on February 27, 2019. I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Second, third, John, Cheryl, thank you. Further discussion? That was an executive session, and those executive session minutes are also controlled by the executives, by open meeting laws and executive sessions. So requests to obtain copies of those executive session minutes need to be solicited formally through the town hall. So there's a slight difference. Those are not posted to the web page, as is the case for open session minutes. Just in case. Item number 2 on the agenda, annual.
Did we approve?
All those in favor of approving those executive sessions?
Aye.
February 27th. Thank you. All those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Once again. Thank you. Item number 2, annual town meeting discussion. We do have articles 13, 14, and 15 on the town warrant. Pat has provided us with copies of all 3 of those, 13, 14, 15. Maybe we just take a moment and walk through the content of all 3 of those. Article 13 is the annual allocation, recognition of the anticipated revenue for FY20, and the allocation of said total revenue of $693,513, and that includes both the locally generated revenue as well as the state match. There's roughly $73,000 of state match in that number. So as is the case with our bylaws in the state law, we allocate 10% into the reserve for open space and recreational use of land, 10% into the reserve for preservation of historic resources, 10% into the community housing reserve, 5% $34,676 into the reserve for administrative and operating expenses. And the remainder moves into the unreserved fund balance, which carries a total for next year of $450,781.
Can you explain why this is recommended by the FinCom?
All the town charter, with this is the same as happened last year. The town charter requires that all money articles be presented by the FinCom, by the Finance Commission.
Oh, okay.
So the Finance Committee, just as the wording says, it says under the motion, the bottom half, based upon the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee, comma,
Okay.
the Finance Commission moves, et cetera, et cetera. So
So they'll be reading this. They'll be reading this.
the FinCom reads the motion, the bottom half here.
Yeah.
And then they basically just turn it over to the CPC. The Finance Commission is voting on these articles next Monday. So they will go through and discuss and come back to us with any questions, but likely recommend something. Yes.
Is this at the table? Excuse me, at the table Monday for people to pick up, or is it in our bound book already?
The top
For town
half,
meeting members, will they get this?
nope, people have already received the top half, the article. And so if you just draw the line above where it says recommended by the Finance Commission, the only thing the town meeting sees is the top half,
Oh, so it's just Article 14 and 15, and then we'll explain it.
13, 14, 15, right. When the motion is made on town meeting floor, then the current practice is to actually show in the overhead,
The slide.
the slide, show the.
And we're doing that?
The motion, yes.
Okay.
That'll be done. They started doing that last year, I think. So,
Excuse me.
procedural questions or anything relative to 13? Yes, John?
Two things. And they both have to do with syncing up with our presentation. I believe, unless mine has been overtaken by events, that our presentation still doesn't have these last numbers. So we need to make sure that it
Edit
does.
those, put them in.
Yeah.
And the other is that in the presentation, we're still calling them Articles A, B, and C. So we want to change that.
Yep.
We have updated these numbers. I think John's got a copy of the 69 Nautical Covey shoulder,
Yeah,
but,
sure.
and in fact, I think it's off by,
One.
it's off by $1 because of rounding.
Yeah.
They still have the 69,351 in the,
Somebody give them
In
$1,
our
for
presentation.
God's sakes.
Yeah.
so these are the numbers due to, again, due to rounding.
You'll also find
Okay,
that
so you have to change
this number is off by $2.
Right.
Go in the bank.
Okay.
So, but the way that this is worded right now in the article and the motion, that's the motion that will be in front of town meeting. So we should kind of backfill and update our
Yep.
presentation.
So I'll make those changes as well as the changes that Ms. Doyle mentioned and send that out to the group tomorrow just to review one more time.
Okay, I think that was on Article 15, that was on 15, maybe when we get to 15, Cheryl, if you could just tell the group what that's all about. When
Okay,
we
yeah.
get to 15. Peter?
Yeah, so before Article 13, we're supposed to be down the front, right? At the table?
Yes, so when we finish 12, if everybody, if
One to-
possible,
1 to forward.
1 to 4, we don't know when we'll get to 12 and 13. But it happened last year, somebody recommended that we take them out of order, so I can't guarantee that they will go in sequential order. So just take that under advisement and, excuse me, we have notified Travis, Ramonda, and
Bernie?
Bernie.
and Lee that they should be there throughout. So,
Good.
John?
Just to avoid any last minute panics, the table that has the numbers that need fixing also has a row on total available funds, which actually matches up with the correct numbers rather than with the numbers that are on there. So you don't need to address that on either table.
Okay.
I think we forced the bottom line on both.
Yeah,
And the-
somehow
and the-
we got it
The
right.
difference is up above, right? Yes, sure.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What if we said no?
On Article 13 and then Article 14, just, Article 14 is for the motion to move money to the admin and operating expense,
Right.
but it's right here. On Article 13. Am I missing something, or did I forget something, or?
This was,
So let's,
yeah.
yeah, so let's hold
I mean,
that.
we're doing it twice.
Oh, that's what it
It's
is,
the word
that darn
appropriate,
word.
yeah.
Okay, never
One-
mind.
One is to move and the other one's to
One is to
appropriate.
move, yeah, okay, I forgot about that.
One's a transfer, and one's the appropriation.
Okay, never mind.
I asked
Okay.
that the last time too, so I never forget after I ask a question, get an answer.
Wow.
That's
you're
lucky.
You're lucky.
So taking, since we're working out of order,
How'd you
so if you
do
look at Article 15, if you look at the motion on the, for Article 15, we're voting, we're recommending to town meeting that they vote to also appropriate that money to appropriate means
Spend it.
spend it, go ahead and
Okay.
spend it within the controls of, you know,
Put it- take it out of
Follow.
all the
put it in your
controls.
pocket.
So anytime we see the admin operating one, that's authorizing the spending of it, so you appropriate it.
Yes,
Right, okay,
right.
all right, I'm just trying to make it easy so I can remember.
Yep, and that was a question, we had to go over that last year in front of town meeting, and it's a good question. Why are we double dipping it? or
Well,
so-
that's what it looks
Let's see,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's confusing, okay.
Other towns write it differently, but I think we went through the process last year of, in talking to town council, and they felt like this would work better for how we currently write our articles, so I guess that's the reason why it looks the way it does.
Yeah, yep.
And I just checked our slide, totally matches up.
Of course it does. Okay. Okay, so any other further comments on 13? We're good with that? We will distribute, the basis for this is information that was provided, I think we went over it a couple of weeks ago, the last meeting, from Tom McQuaid and Mark Good, as far as expected revenues. This is all anticipated revenues, so things like senior, what do you call them, tax abatement,
Yeah.
maybe tax abatements, but tax.
Donations?
When
Yeah.
they come in and say they don't.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking of the
Yeah, I forget what
special
that-
town meeting article.
think you got
Whatever, there is a program for senior citizens not to,
It's an abatement of
Yep.
sort, yeah.
Yep.
so this number will
Hmm.
fluctuate slightly because of real life and abatements that happen after the fact. But right now, that's what we believe is the best number possible. We will talk, I think, do we have the budget in here? Yeah, okay. So we'll talk a little bit more about, actually, let's do it now, Article 14, so the transfer and appropriate on number 14. So that 34,676, if you go back pretty deep, maybe the second or third from the end of what Patrick had provided, this spreadsheet of the operating expenses, the one that looks like that in the package.
Yellow highlight.
Yes, so that is somewhat of an eye test, isn't it? So technically, we don't have to create a line-by-line budget that reflects that 34,676. But what we've done is we've taken our best crack at how we think the money will be spent in FY '20. And this again is just, it's not, there's nothing that forces us to do this, and nor are we constrained by these lines, but it's kind of a best practice to
Well, if somebody
determine.
asks what we need administrative funds for, we say, this is what we need it for.
Right,
Kind of
right.
like, in case there was a question,
Right, yep,
more or less, we're not gonna draw it out, we're not gonna show it anywhere, it's just someone asks, what do you need 34,000 for administrative?
Right.
This is the answer.
yep. And I think later on in the agenda tonight, we're gonna talk about current spending anyway.
Yep.
So we'll get to that point. John, you wanna?
Peter had the same one, thank you.
Cheryl?
So when do we move back the unspent admin fee, admin money?
Yep. So there are a couple of transactions that take place automatically. They're more accounting entries than article entries.
So we don't have to go to town meeting to move it back
Correct.
to the
Yep.
unreserved?
So number one would be the unspent FY '19
Mhm.
admin expenses. And then the second one hopefully is a big number, but whatever is left in unspent money from the chapel will be
Refunded.
journal entry back into the,
Okay.
Are we gonna know that by town meeting?
The PB, I've been in touch with the chairman of the PBCC. They meet tomorrow night. Friday morning, he's guaranteed that we will have that number. So I asked him 2 weeks ago, and there were still some negotiations going on with amended change orders and things like that, that they didn't really know what the final number was gonna be.
John, do we have to go back to town meeting saying how much money of the 400K actually got spent? Do we have to present that at town meeting, or we don't have to specify?
What I- Yeah, what I did tell the chairman, Bill Kinsman, was that one of us would give that summary out of the either $400,000 of CPA money or the roughly $1.6 million of combined money, how much was spent and how much has come back to the coffers. Everything that's coming back is CPA money, it's coming back to CPA. So there's no general money, either borrowed or free cash, that's coming back. So it's less, whatever the remaining money is, it's gonna be less than 400,000. So, Debbie?
I had a scathingly brilliant idea this afternoon. I did not get a hold of Stuart about putting a sign up because it's our first CPA project, right, the chapel? Is it ready to go into?
So they did confirm that they're having a rededication on May 18th
Okay,
of the chapel. It's gonna be an open house, it's gonna be fanfare, and I assume a ribbon cutting maybe, or whatever. I haven't seen the agenda, but there will be.
May 18th?
May 18th, so a week from Saturday.
Could we put something together on like the CPA thing? What do you think?
What do you mean?
John?
Sorry, yeah. Did they mention that they were gonna add, helped or provided by CPA funds? Didn't they mention
Right,
that when they
well-
were here?
They did mention that, but I think it would be up to us to push
We have to
that.
order
Oh.
the sign,
Oh.
and
Yeah.
Stuart was gonna help me get somebody that's already done CPA signs, and we just keep missing, and he's always done about 4:30, and we haven't caught up. I will rattle him all day tomorrow and say, can we give me a place, and I will have a price for you before town meeting.
Let me go to Helen first and then.
Mine's about a different topic, though I can wait. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank
John?
you.
Sure.
Some of the wording John used made me think that perhaps they have plans for a sign that covers other aspects.
Who's they?
They, the
PBCC.
PBCC.
Oh, okay.
And so it may be not a matter of ordering our own sign, but of making arrangements to have our information included on the combined sign,
Right.
which makes it even more important, I think, to be talking to the folks who are working on that.
Yeah.
Right. We
So who
definitely
is
have-
that, and who's in charge of
We
doing
definitely
that?
have to be coordinating this.
Somebody on the on the,
I would
what is it called?
I don't know.
PBCC?
PBCC is, if anybody's doing it, it's them. I don't know what they're doing, if they are in fact making a sign, I don't know. We could float that idea to them. Pat?
I remember talking to, I think it was Jerry Hopcroft.
Yep.
And I know that if they're doing a, what's the term, the time capsule, or doing a resubmission of something like that, they want to place that in a position where they know where it is and don't
Yeah.
surprisingly find it, but actually find it. So I'm not sure if that's where they're putting it, but
Okay.
we definitely follow up with them tomorrow and figure out where they are with.
So
That-
you can do that?
I can do that. I can
Okay.
contact
You
you.
can
to
ask
find
them that the CPA is on the sign? Is
I-
that what
I-
you're saying?
I'll just ask what they plan to do and if also put our
Okay. So-
information in there.
All right, so Debbie, in parallel, if you could keep hounding Stuart. and-
I will.
Even if it's, even if it's a temporary sign for now, even if we got a foam board, and make it look good and get it printed or something and not spend a lot of money, but, just so we can call it to people's attention, if the board thinks that we wanna start that practice, that we make it evident to people who attend that May 18th, that's kind of a time crunch.
Can we announce it at town meeting?
Announce what?
That on May 18th, some of your tax money from the CPA has gone to help do the chapel, and it's gonna be maybe a pitch? I didn't know about it until we just heard about it now.
Yeah, that will be part of
Dave Hearn-
somebody's presentation
Dave
either.
Hearn should make a notice from,
Yeah,
should do it from the podium.
somebody, whether it's Bill Kinsman, Dave Hearn, or me, or somebody else, will call to people's attention the May 18th rededication, but it's probably up to us to make the pitch for the fact that CPA money was used. So I wouldn't leave that to other people, I guess, I'll put it that way.
So you're
maybe-
gonna do that?
So after you do some fact-finding and incredible research,
Okay.
and Pat will talk to, Bill or
you know,
somebody.
that's another thing too. I mean, if besides the chapel project, we do have 4 other projects that are going to hopefully start to commence this summer, and that's another thing. Just reaching out to Stuart and finding out what the standard format is for signage.
Yep.
You know, in particular, we have 2-3 projects that are outside involving some sort of park or whatever. So that might be something that they have just a basic, you know, template to follow, and
yeah,
we can.
sure. One is one
Yeah.
is during the project, and the
Yeah.
other one is post-project.
Yep.
So, good. John?
I would be interested if Stuart had any thoughts about certain kinds of projects or certain sizes of projects where a sign would be overkill.
Yeah, that might be
And,
good.
and
Or maybe inappropriate, depending on.
whatever it might
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like the Carolina, if you think of, you know, where,
Good example.
Yeah.
you know, where would you do it, first of all? Secondly, where would you put it? And then go
Right
from there.
there.
So, yeah, sure.
Concom can put, if theirs gets approved, because we have the post, so as you come into the pavilion, we could have a placard mounted right to the post that it was funded with CPA money. And that way it stays permanent with it.
Yeah, like even the Bond Street, I walk by there a lot, but the Bond Street has a plaque out front. It thanks various donors and sponsors, et cetera, but that would be, might
I
be
would imagine
good
something
place.
that involves historic preservation probably is a little more sensitive to that in terms of, you know, whether chapel or the Carillon or, you know,
Right, yeah,
so.
yeah, so Debbie's gonna do a bang-up job, so,
They're all set up outside there to hold tours tonight of the Caroline, you know that?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Okay, so that,
Now, can I have another question?
yes,
Okay,
absolutely,
thanks. On the sheet about the budget,
yes.
when is the appropriate time to ask about what the $5,826
I
is?
think you've just done it.
Okay, is this the right time though?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. So assuming that your question is, what is the
Right.
$5,826?
Right.
So what I did, and then I floated it by a few folks just to get a sanity check on this, is now that we're a year, believe it or not, we're a year and a half into this process, and we've seen a year's worth of activity, like a full cycle. So we kind of have a good idea of what kind of expenses we should expect to see going forward. So if you look at the big dollar items, so out of 34, let's call it 35,000 just for rounding's sake. Out of that 35,000, almost half of it, 15,000 is on the outside professional line. So that would be things like appraisals, surveying, outside legal assistance, whatever, relative to land acquisition or conservation restrictions. Cheryl would be another spot where that charge
Yeah.
would go. And the 15,000 is really just it's not an arbitrary number, but we don't know, at this point, we don't know what any one of these lines is gonna result in. When I got to the bottom, I'll do it sequentially, but the next biggest line aside from the other is the salary and wages line. So we have talked about a transition going forward so that we're less reliant on Paul and Pat and more reliant on some third party or an individual, not Paul and Pat, who are taking minutes and doing things administratively. So I do foresee every other committee in town has that. Either one of us takes the minutes or we have a dedicated person to take minutes for us. So like the Concom and the Board of Selectmen and other planning board has other paid, it's a paid person to take minutes.
How does that amount relate to the $4,500?
The $4,500 is really just an arbitrary number. I made it up myself. I used some,
But is it a duplication? What is this? Why is it in there 2 times?
well, no, I was just focused, the $4,500, I was just speaking to the salary and wages line at the top. But the bottom number that you're referring to, the 5,826, is really the all other. I don't have anything in mind. You know,
Throw it-
four of us who looked at this couldn't
We
really
haven't
think of
spent
it.
it though.
Well,
Well, we don't have to
spend any
spend.
of
But
it.
why is it at $5,826?
Because we
So
had
So,
it's
okay,
it's
so-
up to the
Leftover.
fixed
We have
total.
$676.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry?
I forced
we
the
just have
number.
We just had an odd number at the bottom. This is 34,676. So the 26 is just to put
To
the money,
run, to make it
Right.
come
put the
out.
money
So-
just to fill out the budget.
Joe mentioned earlier, we don't technically have to put the line items, we can just have a blanket administrative budget. But doing this is better in terms of keeping track of where we're actually spending our
And
funds.
I like this better.
And,
Visibility,
yeah,
yeah,
transparency.
categories.
So
Yep.
by organizing this way that Joe did, we can, have a rough budget that's a little more strict.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm sorry, I'm not, so I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like, why isn't it $5,850?
I was really, if you look at all the other numbers above that, all the other numbers are rounded, like 4,500.
All ended zeros,
They all ended zeros.
except for the total.
And in
is
order to get to the
$76.
total of 34,000,
876, you
the
had.
34,676 is a 5% number, and it's a really ugly number, but it's formula driven. It's just
Okay.
it's just a 5% number of what we think.
Because we had to
Will
end up with $34,676?
Right.
Okay, thanks.
That's what we're transferring.
Okay,
it's-
thanks.
It's an old accounting practice, accounting voodoo. Debbie?
Okay, I'm the math challenge
It's a
one
good.
here
I'm
at
sorry.
the
It's a
table.
good.
We
it's a
don't
good
have
que-
it in South Norwood.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's a good question.
So
Debbie?
we're breaking these down, what we think we're gonna need for each of these categories, but we haven't actually spent that,
We haven't. Well,
have we?
we'll get to this year's. We have spent money in 2019.
But we didn't spend $15,000 on outside professionals, did we?
No, but
No,
this
but
is
it's
fiscal year
FY
20.
20.
This is next year's budget.
We
We're
can't
way
predict
up in
what
the
we're gonna
corner.
actually have.
As of,
I think this was in case
See
someone
the
asked
FY
the question where the money's going.
No, I see
not
FY
where we
I
think the
see.
money's
No,
going.
oh,
FY
FY
20.
20. Sorry.
Right. So nothing. We're not even there yet.
Okay, all right, I thought this was, because I looked at 19. All right, I hate that after.
We don't. That's all right. Good question. If you're
You're not
asking the
in
question,
2020.
somebody else might be asking the same question.
All right.
It's really
Like
just a
Russia
way to.
does that.
I hate that.
I know.
It's just really a way to, like, take it one more level, make it transparent. Best guess, I guess. John.
Okay,
Thank you. So if someone at town meeting asked for this level of detail for fiscal 19 with the spend to date column filled in, can we provide that?
That's what I was gonna just
Yeah, I mean,
ask.
you can ask.
It was in, yeah, when I sent this, the last week or last week maybe, what I did in order to get to this point is I upped, Pat has provided us with a couple
Yeah.
more line items, one of the
Yeah.
other documents here.
We'll
Just
have a
one
few more
month.
for the Housing Partnerships Conference, too.
Right, yep. So these are a couple more invoices, but it's just proof that,
This spreadsheet?
What's up? That's a different memo. It was, the one that was just a single sheet by itself.
Yeah.
To
so,
make,
sorry, go ahead.
to make it look like the rest of the whole budget book, we have to have that information, as John said. Right?
We don't have,
We don't,
No,
We don't
In
it
order
doesn't go in
for your average town meeting representative to understand, it would be easier if we had that information from this year to compare to what it's
Sure.
budgeted for next year.
we can do that. I've got,
You know what I mean?
I do have it in two different, they're in the same spreadsheet in two different places, but
Yeah.
I can merge them so that we can see 19, the current year, and the proposed for next year. Sure, good idea. John?
I think we need to underscore the fact that this is not something for town meeting. And we are not asking town meeting's approval of a budget for our administrative expenses. This is more in the nature of, now that we've had a year's experience in how much things cost
Yep.
and what sort of things we spend money on, we have an internal estimate of what we are likely to spend. And that's all this is it's a projection of what we think we might be likely to spend out of this fixed total maximum. And we're not gonna present this to town meeting. If we get a question that is specifically, well, what do you spend on administrative expenses?
We should be able to
can-
answer it.
We can either give them the information from the year just ending, which we should have in its own column, that would be helpful to us. Or we can talk about, and we're thinking in the coming year that we might be spending this kind of money. The $15,000 is indicative of our hope and expectation there'll be more land purchase
And it can
possibilities.
roll over. We don't have to spend it. It doesn't get taken away from us. It can roll over.
Right.
No,
Actually,
it goes back to town.
It goes, yeah.
At June 30th.
the only thing that rolls over
Resets
is
to
the,
zero.
We don't get to,
It doesn't roll over into administrative,
No,
it
resets
rolls
to
over
zero.
into CPA.
oh, okay.
General fund.
Oh, so the administrative doesn't,
No,
Stay,
so
doesn't
back-
stay administrative.
oh, it just always is 5% of that year's.
You
Yeah.
don't spend it at the end of the year, it goes back into the pot, and then
The
you get.
CPA
Yeah,
fund.
on reserve
Okay.
fund.
Yep.
Goes back to general and we leave Kelly in.
and what's in front of us is only an assumption using
Right.
that 5%, so we definitely, we don't have to appropriate.
You can appropriate up to 5%. We've just,
Yeah.
it's the second year appropriating it, so
Just
Yep.
we can always adjust the number to
Mm.
3.5% or whatever down the line.
But in this case, you know, we're still newbies, we're still new at it.
Yep.
We'd rather appropriate up to the max.
You'd rather have
And
it
then
if you
give
need
back,
it rather than
right.
not need it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Helen?
Thank you.
Sure.
So, for us, I think it would be really good information if we had that column filled. Because we're actually, this is more important to us than it is to town meeting, that we understand it, you know?
Sure.
And if we took your monthly reports,
Yep.
we could add them up at home and stuff. But
Yeah.
this way, we could have it all in one place, have a record.
I would
Yeah.
suggest if we do that, that we not treat it as this column being filled in, because this column is meant to be spent to date in FY '20.
Yeah, so we can
We
go.
want it sort of at the beginning,
Right,
FY '19 spent to date.
Absolutely.
okay,
I need to do a remedial math class for me.
okay. Everybody good with that? So this is, it's more for discussion only, and it certainly has stirred discussion here, but discussion is good. Okay, so that's Article 14. Article 15 is the request to dear town meeting member, following sums be transferred from this community preservation fund revenues and appropriated for the purposes indicated. So we identify the, looks like the print is a little bit off here, but we identify the specific project, the total project amount, and the source of funding for each. So in some cases, it's a straight shot, the money's coming out of all coming out of one place. And then in other articles, it's a blend of money and come source. So we've got the 4 projects: Bond Street Playground, 88,000, Lower Balch Rehabilitation, is that right? Lower Balch Rehabilitation, $142,476. Lower Pond Pavilion, $46,965. Caroline Restoration Project amount $215,080. So, and then the sources. So all of that detail that you see in the bottom half will be read, and that's what will be voted on next at town meeting. And town meeting members, we did verify, I think we may have talked about this before. Town meeting members can vote to increase the amount or reject the amount, but they
I-
can't.
No, decrease, they can't increase, they can decrease it. They're not allowed to
that's-
go up, they can only go
Yeah.
They
down.
can't do either.
They can increase it, they can't decrease it.
No, they
I
can
don't
vote
think
they
so,
can't do
they're not
either.
allowed
Saying
to
that backwards.
I
increase.
think they can vote to decrease, but it's effectively, if you vote to
It
decrease,
makes
you.
it dead in the water, they can't
Yeah.
increase.
If they
Because
decrease
this
it-
board does, this board does the recommending for what we bring to them, and they're
Yep.
voting on the project with this amount of money.
Right. Okay.
Because these are what we got the quotes on what it's gonna cost. So they can't increase, but they can decrease, but if they decrease, they kill the project.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
good. So I think we did, at one point, we got Stuart's input on that as well.
We
so,
did.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Are you who is going to coach the people that are making the presentations? Somebody has to coordinate that, right, Mr. Chair?
So the order of delivery, if you will, is that the,
Not so much that, like, do you introduce them and then ahead of time?
oh,
If you
I
could
see.
tell them not to drag it out, Because town meeting, like, if they give the information, we've had, they should say, we've made this presentation at 2 public forums, at 3 meetings, whatever the story is, and this is what it's about. And, not, the more you drag it out, the more disinterested people will become.
Sure, good idea. Peter, you want to tackle that?
My feeling on that is we just make the recommendations, put the slide up, and announce it, and then if anybody has any questions, then those people, they're not making a presentation there, they've already made their
Yeah.
presentation.
Well,
In my
that's
mind-
good.
In
That's
my mind,
better.
they've already made their presentation.
Right,
The only thing they're there to do is answer questions if there's something specific about the
Yeah.
project.
right.
Well,
So-
that's better.
I think,
That's
I don't
good.
think, I don't think we wanna be doing presentations, cause we'll be going, everybody goes 20 minutes on this, we'll be there forever.
And
So the-
people will
I
lose
think they think they're
interest.
making a presentation.
No.
We better square
I
that
thought you were
away.
gonna, we have squared that away, so I thought you knew the answer. So, so before we get to Article 13, we're gonna go through these slides as part of our 13, 14, 15 presentation. So in these slides, and I think everybody's seen these, we reviewed this the last meeting.
Yep.
And we distributed these at the special, and we still have copies available
Like
to
100. or
give,
so. Yeah.
still have a bunch left to give out, leave at the table. So we're gonna go through these first 10 pages. And then when we get to Article 15, when we talk about the specific projects, then I think there's 2 pages for each of the 4 projects. 3 pages, like I said, there's 3 pages for each of the 2 projects. So when we talk about the Bond Street Playground, we are gonna show these 3 slides. We're gonna have, in this case, Travis is gonna join us at the front of the room to answer any specific project-specific questions. But Travis is not making any presentation to exactly what you just said.
Good.
Yeah.
So Travis has already made his pitch a couple of times. We've had a whole bunch of public hearings and meetings like tonight.
But
for
how do
you.
we get that across to the body?
Well, we're just gonna do it. What do you mean, get,
We just, are you gonna say these are the slides that
Yes.
pertain to that? Okay.
Yep. So we're gonna talk about Bond Street when we get to Article 15. Bond Street Playground is the first of the 4. So we'll only show these 3 slides.
Again, the
We'll-
second
No,
time?
just the first time. We're not gonna, when we present,
So
when-
the
go ahead.
as you said, so the first 2 articles would be review of the first. So Joe would probably go with the first 10 slides, and then once you get to Article 15, then every slide after that has to do with one of the projects. So then it goes into presenting those.
There's another, one of the last first 10 pages here. The 10th page has all 4 of the projects, and with the dollar amount, right, am I looking at the right?
Yep.
So it's got all 4 of the projects on the left-hand side, it's got how much money, where the money is coming from. So this is a snapshot of all 4 of the projects that are about to follow. And then, so we're gonna give this presentation for the first 10 pages only before we talk about Article 13. Then when we get to 15, then we'll go back to the slideshow, we'll get to the Bond Street, we're gonna vote on these individually, all 4 of them individually.
Excellent.
So when we're talking about Bond Street, then we'll present slides, pages 11, 12, 13 really quickly. We'll get to the bottom line on 13, on the Bond Street part, and this ties to that previous slide. Any questions for Travis, who's standing here ready with input, but it's gonna be quick. So we wanna motor through these in a reasonably quick fashion. Peter?
So the only one speaking is you, unless somebody asks a question.
First 2,
I mean, as far as what I'd say is you're just going right through this whole thing.
yes.
I mean, I don't see anybody else for reason for talking unless there's a question that needs to be answered that you,
Yep.
you know,
That you
delegate to
can't
somebody else.
answer.
That's excellent.
You delegate to somebody else to answer.
Okay.
Like if you want Travis to answer it, you want,
Okay.
I don't know who's gonna
That's
speak for the
excellent.
Carolyn. Because we gotta just control the front and let
That's
the,
right.
and let this,
Move.
if, yeah. And
Yep.
we don't want too many speaking parts here, because otherwise we'll be,
Well, that,
They'll
be
get
like, oh, here
bored.
comes the CPA again.
as opposed, let me answer the first part of your question in opposition of what the last part of what you just said. I don't have to do these 4 myself. anybody on the committee can do it, but we don't want to turn it over to the presenters.
Right.
No,
Right, so somebody on this board, if somebody feels really heartfelt that they're
Just
really
sprint through it.
excited, just,
I
Jump.
nominate the chair.
I second.
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, all those opposed? I'll take that vote. John, thank you.
We roll into Article 15 with slides 8, 9, and 10. Slide 8 says we're recommending 4 projects. You're gonna vote on each project individually. You can approve or reject the project. You cannot add money to any project budget. You cannot appropriate money for anything other than a recommended project. So we will have set those ground rules as of slide 8. Slide 9 is there to list the 4 recommended projects with longer names, like improvements to Bond Street Playground instead of just Bond Street, and to indicate what category of our 4 categories it's under, so recreational use of land category. This would be, I think, a good time, Mr. Chair, for us to say, I'm gonna go through these 4 projects, 3 slides for each, and at the end of each project's description, if anyone has any questions, we will pause to receive those questions. And then slide 10 is the table that we've seen in various forms. The one that says, here's how much is being proposed for this project, here's how much comes from this fund and how much comes from that fund. Here's how it totals up for all 4 projects combined, and here's how many funds are gonna be sitting in the CPA coffers after if we approve all those 4 projects. There isn't, I think, a need to go through all of the lines on the table. It's probably enough just to have the dollar amounts.
Sure.
And then now you're into the 4 times 3 remaining slides of the presentation. And each of the blocks of 3 is 2 slides that are mostly pictures with a little bit of text about why it's a good idea, and a 3rd slide that's a summary overview of the budget.
Peter?
Since they're gonna have this, just tell them they can follow along in this handout.
Sure, yeah, which is why,
Yeah,
that's
and
why we
it's
gave it
there.
out in the first
And then
place,
it's
yeah.
right there, and they can follow under. We just, and what John said, if they have any questions, ask them, but other than that, we'll just keep rolling through
Right.
it.
Plus, that was the reason why we motored to get this out
For the
and leave it at
special.
the tables at the special, is people have had it for 3 weeks, so. Yes, Deb?
Having just been through the downtown overlay thing at town meeting, if we could have available, who is it, Cheryl? Who does the computer stuff sitting there in the corner?
Sue?
Sue, because she's a genius on the computer. If we could have her ready with CPA, this kind of stuff. So the question, because if there's another John Hall in the audience that asks a very in-depth question, and we've got, if we have the answer on the CPA slide, like we were looking for
Yeah.
the overlay, if we could have pulled that up, but we didn't have that information, like, something out of
found
the
it, though.
zoning book, somebody wanted.
Somebody
And
just
wanted
a
Sue was-
footnote,
Yeah.
a footnote about the area requirements.
Right, and
Swift
Sue
wouldn't-
was
yeah,
right.
scrambling there
Yeah.
trying to get it, and she
Yeah.
could have gotten it, but if we
Right.
just
You got
had
it up
that.
at the end.
I know, I'm not,
Yeah.
don't get sensitive, Pam.
But that was the theory to this. We don't know what kind of questions. It's always the case. You never know which town meeting is gonna show up. People are gonna ask really good questions, and you really, I actually learned this from Bob Thornton, is you can have 4,000 slides, only show as few as possible, but just be
Exactly.
ready
Yeah,
to
I'm not
slide.
saying show them,
Yeah.
I'm just
Exactly.
saying when the other John Hall in the audience asked the question, if we just have it up there, then they can read it while you continue your process, which we could have had if we had that zoning book piece there, which is, she was scrambling to try to find it, that would have answered the question.
Yep.
That, we've all got papers all over our lap, everybody else in the audience hasn't done this for,
Right.
what are we doing, this 14 years?
At
Sorry,
least.
I'm lying. But, they haven't done this. We are spending their money, and John's done a very succinct program. I just in case there's some CPA stuff up
Sure.
there, we can just hit that little button.
I'm gonna personally assign a subcommittee of Debbie and John so that Debbie, you
Don't
can
give me anything to do with a
explain-
computer,
you
I'll
can
be walking
explain
around with a
what you meant
whiteboard.
by There's another John Hall out there. Yes, John?
As the first John Hall.
The original.
I think there's an important difference between what the mixed-use overlay district presentation was coping with.
We don't, I'm sorry, just a point of order, we don't have to live that again.
No,
All right, so let's try to,
I'm,
Oh,
Minimize-
I'm
oh, you're
gonna-
hurting
Wow.
Patrick's feeling.
right?
I'm gonna make
Yeah,
one
no,
point
this-
out of that, and it's not a point that was important in that discussion, but there were a tremendous number of details, and they resisted a sort of upward summarization, which we've been able to accomplish already.
All right,
If I can imagine the question that the other John.
the other
Hall
John
might
Hall's
ask,
gonna ask, okay.
it would be a question for which we have no slide, such as, why are you proposing this project in this part of town instead of this other part of town?
That's a simple answer.
We can
It
do
is
an
a simple
application.
answer, but it's not one that's on a slide.
Okay.
And that's why I think your idea of being prepared would actually not prepare us for the condition that it's meant to prepare us for. It's better that we have people who are prepared as people, and I think we'll be able to respond.
I think if we all, maybe translating that into a different language, but if we all kind of think, put on our town meeting hats ourselves, and just say, if I didn't know anything and I walked into this meeting, what would be the 3 things I would ask? Right, and those are the kind of things that if we're thinking of those questions, it's a possibility, like that one. It's
How
like-
would you answer it?
I won't go into it right now.
Oh, come on,
What?
answer it.
What, the question he just asked, why
Yeah.
this here and not there?
Why this suite of projects, maybe? or-
No, why this location, what did you ask?
So,
Instead of this other part of town, and my answer to that question would
We
be,
want his answer, because he's the one that would have to give it on its feet.
that doesn't mean I can't feed him something
No,
here.
no, your father, wait a minute, father, go right ahead, Mr. Chair.
okay, so your question is why the Bond Street playground and not the Oldham playground or some other playground? Is, first of all, that's the project that was proposed.
That's
and-
the
That's
answer.
That's the answer.
Stop.
That's it.
Yeah.
Stop,
Done.
Yeah,
Done.
perfect.
Done.
With no application.
Next.
Sorry.
pal, unless you wanna say pal.
Okay,
We'll leave that for you.
okay,
Wow.
we are rocking and
We'll
rolling.
be taking applications in November.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so,
You'd like to-
Yeah.
why didn't you
Feel
vote
free.
for a dog park? Because nobody proposed it.
Oh, boy,
Um,
you had to go there.
Okay, so we're okay with Article 15 and how we're gonna walk through that, and I did tell Ramonda and, as I said, Travis
I'm ready to
and,
run through it, never run through it.
thank you. And Bernie, that they've
They are?
already had their pitch, and, you know, we're moving on here, so.
So
So hopefully the moderator has been informed that each one gets voted on separately.
Yeah, no, he's involved in the
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
We did have prior to every town meeting, it is what they call a motions meeting,
Oh,
so we had that a week
it's
ago.
like a dry run.
It's a dry run, they go through all the articles, and Pat, I was there, Pat was there, Paul was there,
Great.
and, yeah, sure,
you said you wanted me to mention what we were changing on the lower pond one?
please.
So, Concom requested just a wording change on ours.
Slide of the other.
I think Patrick has the marked up
Oh,
page.
that's why I can't find it.
So,
Yeah, I'll give it right back. On here, we didn't have it on ours, but somehow it creeped in, it says cash donations. We're not allowed to take cash donations. If somebody does any donating to the conservation board, they have to write out a
Yeah, I don't
check.
think anybody in this hallowed hall is allowed to take cash.
I know, but
Are they?
because it says cash
Not me.
Be
donations,
getting a birth
Wait,
certificate.
wait, wait, whoa, let's have one meeting, please.
the issue is, because it says cash donations,
Yeah.
somebody's gonna question it because our board has stressed over and over and over and over again, we're not allowed to take cash.
Okay.
Okay.
We
So
don't want it
then we'll-
there.
All
We
right.
wanna be staying as transparent as we can on it, so we just want it removed.
We taking the whole line out?
No,
Just
Three
and
words.
cash donation, gone.
Just those in-kind donations?
because that will be coming, and that's legit,
Yeah,
and that is
So
the closest
that-
thing
this
to
is
an
going
other
on.
funding
Yeah.
source that we have for any of our projects.
So it's gonna
yeah,
say
well, the
in-kind
picnic
donations.
tables
That
we
they're
already
going to
have.
donate
Yeah,
some
no,
Okay.
in-kind donation.
tables and
Oh.
benches.
So just bringing this back, so you have,
No,
you
he's
have
taking
the,
the donation completely out of there,
you have the
What's in
master
kind?
code. Wait a
the
minute,
picnic
hang on.
tables.
I get the latest version of the presentation. I'll make the edits. We're all good.
Cool, thank you.
I
Good,
just-
thank
I
you,
just
Sean.
need
He's
a
a
quick
champion.
clarification, I didn't catch what, because I'm asking, this whole
Also
statement
in
coming out
kind.
are in-kind donations, in-kinds of donation.
Yeah, well, the picnic
Is it-
tables aren't a donation, cause we already own the picnic tables. The picnic tables are
What's this
already
line
out there.
supposed to say?
We being.
Okay, just say picnic tables provided by Conservation Commission, they're already out there.
I
There's,
just take-
what,
strike the
4
whole line.
tables out, okay, just strike
Strike
it,
the whole line,
alright,
don't,
Well, yeah,
okay.
Let me.
if you're afraid of controversy, just take the whole thing out.
Well,
because-
it's the
19,
cash part
sorry.
that will get us
I know,
in
but-
trouble.
But you already put the picnic tables there.
Is
They've
I-
been there.
Can I
So
make
it's not
a
gonna-
statement? So
Sure.
the issue is with solar lighting and planters and landscaping, which you guys indicated that Concom would take care of in just
Yeah,
their
we're paying for it,
typical
yeah.
budget. So I guess we'll just change the wording to say part of separate from the 46,965, which is
Yeah.
CPA appropriated money. This is money that is provided through regular Conservation Commission's budget.
Yeah, but if you, well, somebody asked about picnic tables. Can we just put picnic tables already owned by Conservation Commission?
I
Is
don't-
that okay?
It's
too
really
wordy?
busy.
Yeah, okay,
So
then
what-
let's strike it.
So we're gonna nuke in kind. So we're just gonna say also,
If donations is a controversy, I just take the whole line out, because it doesn't.
We're fine with it, and if somebody
From
asks us about
conservation,
picnic
How about
tables,
get
we
rid of
can
this,
Yeah.
and this
answer.
is what
Say
we're
we
gonna-
already
How
own
about
it.
We already own it.
575?
We already
Okay,
have
time
them.
out, time out.
Debbie just mentioned, strike the line, it says from Conservation Commission. I can do another indent and have picnic
Yeah.
benches, solar lighting, planting,
Perfect.
landscaping.
Good,
Okay.
so, excellent. Cool,
Thank you.
thank you.
We appreciate it.
So, yeah, so we'll take care of that. So that's 13, 14, 15, that's our articles. And the motions, we talked about the presentation. Pat, do you wanna walk us through, you've given us all kinds of other
Okay.
data here.
Two quick things, stuff that says draft on it. One is a draft letter to applicants about their next step of what we want them to do. The other one is a draft letter to the accounting department discussing, setting up expense accounts for the specific projects. So I think we talked about, by the next time we meet is gonna be June. And we'd like to make sure everything is, the next day, right after everything is voted on, we get the appropriate information to the appropriate parties and get the ball rolling there. So, both of these are just kind of draft letters that we hope to send out to them.
John?
There's an important point you've made in your note to the project officers, that payments must be approved by CPC before they pay any invoice.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything like that on the other letter, but there should be.
The other letter in terms
The
of,
letter
to the accounting?
to the
Yeah.
accounting, that they should realize that if they get dinged to pay something,
Mhm.
it's gotta have our authorization attached to it, or they
That's a
can't.
good point.
That's what happened with Gabriel's Chapel.
That's right.
That's what got us in the mess.
Okay, good point.
Okay.
So the theory with let's focus on the one that's directed to the project proponent, the applicant.
Yep.
So congratulations, et cetera, et cetera. So we're kind of setting the table for management of the project as it goes forward.
Yes.
We haven't gotten to the, kind of an open item is, at this table, we should have, and this, we did theoretically talk about this, adding it to the our June meeting, of what do we wanna do specifically? Do we wanna invite all four of the project applicants, now project managers in to give us a presentation once a month, to anything in writing? We need to, agree ourselves what we want that to be. We don't have to do it now, but I'm just setting the table. Peter?
Oh, you said don't do it now, so.
Okay, good.
But I do have something to say about it.
Okay, excellent. It's not on the agenda, so we can't technically talk about it tonight. Pat has given us these drafts, and
Yep.
I don't know if people wanna if you've
Well,
had
there
it.
is one
if you've had a
letter
chance to
in
read.
here, I guess, are we gonna get to as far as a recommendation about hiring somebody?
Do what?
We're not, yep,
From
we're
Tony.
There's a
not,
recommendation from Tony. It's one of
I
them.
think that's a longer discussion. Can we put that off till
Where's
June?
that at?
It's a memorandum
Can we just run
from
through that?
Tony, part-time administrative position.
yeah, why don't we
How
not,
did I
let-
miss that?
let's not
Yeah, that could go on a while for me.
let's not spend too much time on it, let's give it 3 minutes.
So,
And Pat, do you wanna talk, hang on one sec, everybody okay to get that page? We all up to speed? Okay, go.
so not to go into overly detail, but,
Good, let's put it on the agenda for June then.
sounds good. Basically, it's up to the committee and whether, and how they
Just tell
wanna
us
go
what's in
forward
front of
with
us,
it,
and
but,
it will be on the agenda for
the
June.
possibility of adding a temporary part-time staff position. Town Manager Mizuko brought this up to Director Halikotis, I think a few days ago, and so this is just kind of a rough outline of what that what the scope of work of what that person will be doing. Yeah, if the committee sees that as the right avenue to go into. Also attached is kind of an explanation of where we got the pay scale from, and then I just did a rough example of where we would shift the money over
I think,
within the administrative budget.
First of all, is this on the agenda?
It's not in, it is,
Well, administrative budget for
it is
FY
because
20
it's,
is
it
technically.
Within our
involves
pay.
the administrative budget.
Yep.
What I asked Pat, we're not gonna talk about it at all, because it's not, technically, it's not on the agenda, and as Debbie says, it's a bigger discussion than we have time for tonight.
Yep.
We're trying to focus on town meeting, but I did ask Pat just to give us a quick summary of how we got this document. So, now you have done that. Peter?
Does this kind of lead to what we were talking about as far as tracking the projects? And this is what the person's gonna be doing, is tracking the projects going forward for next year. Once we get these projects approved, this person will be hired to basically follow up and do the go-between on the project, and keep track of the projects, basically?
Yeah, to an extent, and also just
Because more or less, he'll be taking a.
basic administrative work.
It's all administrative. I didn't know anything about this before yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's up to us. This is our committee. Tony, this is Tony's recommendation.
Yeah.
So it's a point of discussion for our next
June?
meeting. Yes, sure.
Can I have somebody follow up with human resources though? Because technically, you're hiring a person as part of a staff, so then you're having to pay healthcare costs and everything else. They're not a this
Okay, let's- can we-
position is
Yeah,
not a
let's-
recording secretary
We're not-
position.
Hold that thought till next month. We're not,
Okay.
we're definitely not there yet. So that would be a consideration.
This is a memo to be aware of.
Yes. It's an early warning. Let's talk about it June, whatever.
a shot over the
Whatever
bow.
Whatever that meeting is.
If I could,
June 12th, yes.
Good questions.
Well,
And
right,
Cheryl's
this
is-
a
and can I-
secretarial.
Can I say one more thing? This is it's a memo. I would ask, you can do whatever you want, but I would ask people not to go running up and down the halls and making a big deal out of this
Don't you
until
look at me when you say that.
until we've had a chance to discuss this. Thank you. Sorry, John?
without getting into the substance, which we absolutely must not do, I think Ms. Doyle's point is an illustration of a larger concern that we may roll into the official discussion without being in the position to say yes, because there are too many things that haven't been worked out and that would have to be worked out before we would have a proposal that is in a form that would allow us to say yes.
Yep.
If that concerns somebody, like Mr. Mizuko, I would think they would want to sharpen their pencils between now and June and give us something that is better constructed to allow us to say yes if we elect to do so.
Even though
June.
June. Even though I don't want to even talk about this, my answer is, we didn't know anything about this. Nobody at this table except for Pat and myself knew about this before today.
Yesterday.
Yeah. I found out yesterday.
Same.
This is something that we should home grow and generate ourselves as opposed to being thrusted upon us.
Exactly.
And it's up to us to determine what we want this person to do. Okay, it's not, this person is working for the committee. Right, there's definitely, Pat and Paul have done an amazing job of supporting us in the last 15 months. And we're never gonna be able to duplicate that, but we need to craft a job description for this person. Right, it's up to us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not gonna wait for anybody outside this room to tell us what to do. Is that okay? Okay, sorry. Soapbox, put away.
Excellent.
Anything else? Anybody else wanna not talk about that topic?
Well, yeah, we always talk about not talking about it.
Okay. Rolling right into the rest of our financial review, Pat, you've provided us with
So,
a couple of copies here.
the recent expenditures thing, 2 of those were at our, I think back in March, when was our public hearing? So 2 of those are the public hearing advertisement and the St. Lot appraisal. Those have both been paid, as well as the special town meeting handouts, which Mr. Greeley mentioned earlier. Those have been paid. In addition to that, I did include the letter from the appraiser and the invoice, just to everyone take a look and kind of get an idea of, you know, what that invoice would look like, or what any future appraisal invoices would entail.
So getting back to the, what do we think next year could look like? This is this is how we've spent money so far this year. And this is just on one piece of property. And so if anything else comes, there will be more expenses come up as if the St. Lot proceeds. And, who knows what else is out there, so, opportunities. So, I guess I'll entertain a motion, even though these have been paid.
Motion to approve.
Motion-
Second.
Okay. Second, further discussion on invoice transactions, good? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, thank you. So there's roughly 3,200, it's 3,198.39 of additional funds which have been paid. I think this roughly brings us up to about $6,500 roughly. I think so far this year, maybe 7,000 with, I think
Probably not even, I mean, I would say
the coalition bill, I think was
the
2,800.
coalition bill and the appraisal cost probably would make up 75 to 80% of our expenditures this year,
Okay.
realistically.
So as opposed to the 32,000, 32,000, I think that was appropriated in FY '19, we've spent about 8. And,
Probably less than 8,
yeah,
like
so,
6.
okay. John?
Looking to expenses still to come
Yep.
in this fiscal year, have you had any takers for the housing seminar?
Both Paul, myself, and as of today, John are going.
So that'll be an expense for registration, is that right?
Yep, so that's $90
When's that?
Oh,
Friday.
negligible.
This Friday.
This
Oh, it's
Friday.
this
Friday.
Friday. If anyone else still wants to go, I think you can still register, so just let us know and we can take care of the invoice.
Is anyone carpooling on it?
You never pay for a planning
I
one.
can't.
You let me know if
You
it's
can't.
one.
I have to go to
It's just
work
a
and
long
then go to
cycle
there.
day.
and then
That's
go
what
back.
I'm about.
It's in
Big
Framingham.
to do.
Yeah.
What
So
is the time is it running?
I believe 9:30 to 3.
Okay.
So
I did circulate that.
I know,
Fred-
it's dropped off my radar.
Yeah, that's right.
But-
Friend of mine forwarded
It's a
it.
whole
Looks
day.
like a great, it's more geared
Right.
towards housing folks and housing authorities and housing organizations. But it's, looked like a good one. The principal who's presenting that day, just in a second email that I had communication with her, she was very open to coming to one of our meetings over the summer and specifically presenting, essentially that same presentation, but more directly geared towards Norwood in potential.
Oh, that'd be a great idea.
I also forwarded it to Patty and Steve Merritt, and I inviting, at least not inviting them, but asking them to consider joining us here for a joint committee meeting. But that's on the potential for the summer. We do want to, the answer to the question of why don't we have any housing projects proposed, because we didn't get any applications. So we do want to foster additional interest in that area as well. So, Debbie, you had a hand up?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that maybe we skip one of the summer meetings.
Hang on, hold that thought, let's hold that thought.
Oh, we're not there yet?
We're not,
I
but
think
we're,
there's a June decision.
we're almost, no. Anything else on our agenda for the evening other than,
Well, next
Future-
steps in case in town meeting, in case people start coming up with some wild ideas. I know that we haven't got applications, but what happens if something comes up about the old governor's mansion on Walpole Street, as far as that goes, because it's in play now for sale.
Yep.
So I know time kind of doesn't fit an application schedule because of that, so I don't know. It just,
so most, no, it's a good question. All of our activity, like the reason we're here is town meeting.
right,
It's marrying available money with the approval of town meeting for a valid, worthwhile project, right? But it all revolves around town meeting. So if you think of how frequently, when the next time we'll have a town meeting, it's probably in the fall, maybe the October, November-ish, right? So even if we could open the window tomorrow, we can't do anything with them until after that town meeting anyway. But one of the things that's on the, you all haven't seen a proposed summer, open items. I think John called it the parking lot of ideas and things that we need to talk about. And one of the ideas is to what extent we need to revisit the needs assessment, number one. And number two, how do we create a process where it's not only like a regular aisle geared towards the May annual town meeting, but there's a 8 items or less aisle to get to special town meeting. So in that case, the governor's mansion or a dog park or anything, if somebody, it's up to us to create that timeline that leads to town meeting. And then based on that timeline, there's a nugget of application window.
mhm.
So it's always great to foster these. John, Paul, and Pat are gonna come back with amazing ideas from this housing seminar this week, right? Debbie's gonna talk to Stuart and have an aha moment,
Stuart and I are gonna talk.
right? So any number of things are still on the,
We went to
Horizon.
historic preservation.
yeah, that one. Yep.
Went to that last, Patrick, Paul, and I went to that meeting on May 1st, was Norwood Historical Commission.
Oh, at the library?
Put it together. It was interesting too, because it was people from all over the state. Somebody from Nantucket came up, a lot of people from Duxbury. All over the place. It was just so many communities. It was probably 30, 40 people there, and they were all from everywhere, and a lot of people from Duxbury, because I guess there's a little bit of, pushing match between the CPA and the historical, 'cause they have a couple of historical commissions in Duxbury, so I guess
Yeah.
there's something going on there.
So if you think this town meeting next week, we're gonna be proposing just short of $500,000 in projects, which is great. It's a good, we've done the chapel, hopefully we've done the chapel. That's
I think
400,
it looks pretty well.
yeah, it looks great from the outside. So 400,000 there, 500,000 will be proposed at town meeting. So we've proposed $900,000.
About half our money, right?
Every year, we're gonna vote to, make a motion to allocate $700,000 for next year. So if we keep taking in 700 and then spending whatever, 4 or 5, pick a number, I mean, it's gonna gain momentum. So the what's next is for us to get our cycle in, routine, and to make it, continue our outreach, make it not easy for people, because we don't wanna make it easy, we wanna make it thorough. But we're open to anything, so,
I think that we'll get that question.
which one?
Just about, somebody wants a dog park, what's the process gonna be? So I think we probably need to be prepared to talk about what the application process will be, and all that type of stuff. So I think that'd be a question that we might have to have, be prepared to answer.
The reason I mentioned dog park twice, now 3 times, is because somebody has asked me about a dog park, and they asked me to give them an application for next time around. So I can, with some surety, say that will be one proposed project. John?
When and if we move to having an off-cycle opportunity, key to the fall special meeting. I would suggest that it be limited to the funds we still have in hand from previous fiscal year. I don't want to see us in a position of going out of cycle to approve a project which then significantly reduces the money available for the projects that come in on schedule for that fiscal year.
One man's opinion.
What man's
Absolutely.
Well, transactions.
I would have to
real
think
estate
about that.
transactions may not wait for our cycle. That's the only thing that's gonna be the wild card is going. you know.
Well, in a situation like this, where we have substantial funds available, we'd still have some flexibility. If we were in a position where we'd spent all the money that we had and we were waiting for the next year, I don't see taking anything and jumping it out of line, getting essentially favored treatment. Still one man's opinion, but I think we'd be tampering with the spirit of the rules if we did that.
Well, Matt, I don't disagree that we're,
Quickly.
okay, we're
because
not
this isn't-
tampering with them. However, every town meeting can still say yes or no, right? Even if it's a favored stat, right?
It's not the town meeting's approval that I'm concerned about, it's the disproportionate impact on other applicants in that same cycle.
And maintaining our credibility.
Yes.
That's
also-
key. That's key. Yeah.
Not to go too much into it, because I know this isn't on it, but it's also, the rules are kind of also dependent on, I mean, obviously the basic rules of the CPA, but they're also dependent on what you wanna do. Other towns have different things that they favor and what they use the money for. You know, Plymouth puts all their eggs in the basket of historic preservation, and you obviously saw what Needham did with their town hall, and so you can't have kind of like I don't think it's too out of line to think of some central things that are needed or have been kind of not looked at in the past years in terms of funding. So
There was definitely pent up demand and
for certain things, but you know, I think John Hall's. I mean, I think John, you're still right about it should be not favor anything, but you should be aware of what are your critical areas. to improve.
credibility. Credibility was your word, Helen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you're right.
But
Yes.
what I think is that I think that we'll handle this beautifully when it comes up. I don't think we should worry about it tonight.
Amen. Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Sorry. You hold that thought. We've got one more topic that's been parked. So future meetings at the bottom of the agenda. Future meetings, we've got June 12th, 2019. And while I'm looking at that, we are going to post the town meeting nights as CPC meetings as well. We do have a quorum in the room, and we're gonna post those just so you're not.
What do
it's-
you mean?
Wow.
What do you mean?
I never thought of that.
There will be a quorum of us at those meetings, and when when our committee presents, that's actually one of our meetings as well. So we-
All right, you guys are, okay.
So it will be posted. I just didn't want anybody to be surprised by that. But so June 12th is our next official committee meeting. July 10th is the one after that, and August 14th is the one after that. So we don't have to decide now. But if someone were to throw out an idea to amend that in any way, now would be a good time to throw out an idea to be confirmed at June 12th or the will of the body right now.
I'd like to throw out that we skip July.
Second.
Okay, John?
I would argue against that proposal.
He argues against everything I say.
Well, my thought is, let's
Which is
leave,
part of his charm.
let's leave this as it is.
Yes,
We can still cancel a meeting
right.
a month in advance if it becomes completely clear that we don't have business to transact. But by keeping these on we're giving ourselves some flexibility for things like the detailed implementation of financial and program reporting in our first substantial year, and are making sure that we have our hands on that going forward well. And the other is the unexpected opportunity. We'll be able to jump on that with no less than a lag of a couple of weeks, if such a thing materializes.
Okay. No more discussion. You want me to shut the heck up?
No, I didn't say that.
To be
Well,
continued.
Good, okay. So we can decide, I'm just gonna make the motion. We can decide in June. and decide in June.
So are you withdrawing your motion?
No, 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 I'd
Because it
still
was
like to say
second.
but
Motion
we're,
to table.
Yeah.
right, we weren't
Your
gonna
motion
decide to pull
table.
it off, right, until next meeting, right?
So,
we'll
so
just-
do you
We're
want
not
to,
doing anything.
do you want to
in other
withdraw your
words.
second and your first, and
Yes.
we'll talk about it next month?
Yes.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
Motion-
now my
motion-
motion to adjourn.
hang
Nope,
on,
come
hang on a
on.
second. So, okay, so that so we're tentatively, all three of these dates are set.
I lost
Yes.
Mr.
Well, that's not to say you
Mr.
can't
Peabody
cancel.
already again.
No, we're gonna discuss
We're gonna
June
discuss
12th.
it on June.
One of the
Yes.
topics, it's,
Not discussed it.
one of the topics,
Discuss
we,
it.
Yes,
one of the topics we will talk about on June 12th is a reorganization of the committee,
yes.
just FYI. And there is value, I think, with something you said, John, but I do listen. But one of the things that I think we gained a lot from this past year has been doing work in between meetings. We can't afford to only do work at these meetings. So there has to be subcommittee work, there has to be work done and accomplishments in between meetings.
Yeah, we've done good.
No, I'm
doing
saying,
Subcommittee.
I
Yeah.
think we did a lot of the
Yeah.
outreach, I think we planned a lot of the public hearing work and everything in between meetings. The needs assessment, Peter and John and various other people contributed, Cheryl, to the needs assessment package, which was great, and we would not have been able to do that in meetings. So that's just a call for a continuation of those subcommittees, I think we just need to keep doing that. That will allow, if we can get into that mode, then that will allow us to be a little more flexible with our meeting schedule. So, and unless anybody,
Motion to adjourn.
Cheryl, did you say something?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those, second, all those in favor, all those opposed?
Aye,
unanimous.
Aye, 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 aye.
aye, aye.